Hello, my name is Protik Mukhopadhyay. I'm an entrepreneur and an author. I'll be hosting the Reimagine Sales Systems podcast, where I'll be bringing some of the industry thought leaders who will be sharing their go to market strategies for their business systems.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to have David Thelen from Viewpoint. He's the Director of Business Systems. Join us. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Protik. It's great to be here.
Thank you, David. Like all other speakers, we really appreciate the time. I know it's very difficult to carve time out, so thank you for that. I'll ask you some questions and love to get your perspective. So, David, what has been your journey in the enterprise world? How did you lead the business systems team at Viewpoint? If you can share that, that'll be really fascinating.
Yeah, I've got a pretty interesting background to get into the software and technical space. So I graduated with a degree in sociology, and really just kind of had to get a job at some point. And so I found myself at a language translation company, smiling and dialing. I was in a business development rep role. It was a pretty small company, which ended up having a lot of opportunity. So the people who were in charge of the website and the Salesforce instance were no longer with the organization, and there was a need to fill that. And I raised my hand and I was like, yeah, I'll do this. And they said, okay, still make 60 phone calls a day and you don't get a raise, but you can do it. I jumped at that chance, and that was the beginning of that. So, I kind of focused on marketing technology at some smaller software companies after I'd kind of gotten experience there, and got into a full Salesforce administrator role. Which then kind of led to leading a business systems, being a business systems lead, which led to a CRM manager position at my current company, which is Viewpoint. And then I got promoted based upon really, I think, understanding how the intersection of business, the processes that are need to run businesses, and how in technical knowledge into the director of business systems at Viewpoint. So I think I'm sometimes a little of an odd duck with this sociology background, not a MIS or CS degree, but I think it brings a lot of different perspective that I've really taken advantage of through my career.
I mean, it's very interesting to see because you are an actual user who would use the system, right? So you can have a lot more empathy, and somebody who only has a knowledge of the back end may not understand what happened in the real world, right? So that's an awesome thing. You mentioned about Viewpoint. You also mentioned about an earlier conversation about your parent company, Trimble, and I know Viewpoint does some construction management. So, what has been your go-to-market strategy for the company? Is it direct channel? Can you walk us through, and then we'll talk about some of the systems that enable those?
Absolutely. We have both direct and channel at Viewpoint. And our larger organization, Trimble, is more geographically diverse. So once you get into Europe, they do a lot more channel and direct. But so the systems that I am responsible for is probably about 85 to 90% direct and 10 to 15% channel. So our systems are reflected. They're reflective of that direct go-to-market strategy.
Thank you. And then what have you deployed internally in terms of your monetization system? So CRM, CPQ, to enable that. If you can walk us through both of in terms of technology stack, and also if there are any homegrown systems, that will be very interesting.
Yeah, so we are, that's our CRM, we're a Salesforce.com house, and we do utilize Salesforce CPQ. So we're utilizing Sales Cloud for opportunity management, and then we also use Service Cloud in the customer community for our customer portal. That feeds into NetSuite, which is our ERP, and we are currently using. We're actually in the process of implementing a tool called Zone & Co to provide automation for all of our billing and orders. And with that project, we're also tying into our parent company's RevPro instance for revenue recognition. So that's the quote to cash stack. We utilize right now Click for our BI tools. But we have access to Domo in our building up plans of actually utilizing that for our BI tool of the future in a much more self-service way than we currently are. That's one of the things we're driving on, is getting into self-service BI to really empower the analyst community across Viewpoint to be able to build out visualizations and analysis on their own without having to get a developer involved.
Very interesting. Coming back to our conversation on go-to-market and systems, last year was a very interesting year, right? COVID, some businesses did well. So are you seeing any trends or any upcoming projects either to take advantage of the remote digital transformation trend? Like, what does your roadmap look like for 2021?
Yeah. So kind of talk about COVID and how it's affected our business, first of all. So in the construction world, it's one of the biggest industries in the world, but it's also one of the least digitized of all the large industries. So, COVID is just kind of increasing what we've already seen, where when everybody had to go home, a lot of construction companies did not have the infrastructure that, people who might work at a software company take for granted. So, and those are the products we offer. So we're in a good situation in the market as we are in this kind of work from home world and as we move forward. So with that, a lot of my roadmap is built around growth. And then integrating with our parent company, Trimble, and their connect and scale goals to be able to really serve the Trimble and Viewpoint customer as one Trimble and be able to offer our products in bundles and so the customer can buy one product from Trimble but have many different functions. If that's estimating, which Viewpoint doesn't provide, and the ERP, which Viewpoint does provide, we want to make sure the customer can have a singular experience as they are purchasing those needed tools to run their business.
Any interesting projects which are the intersection of data or usability that you implemented recently, and what were some of the KPIs and lessons learned that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, something that's helpful and unique that I think I can speak to is, Viewpoint has always been it's like 45 years old. So it was a perpetual software company. And over the last 5 years, it's gone into a journey to become a SaaS-based company. So, there's the product and engineering side of that, which we're not going to really talk, I don't need to talk about here, but, how do you take from a revenue perspective, how do you track those kind of one-time bookings, and then actually transition into tracking reoccurring revenue? And as you're doing your transformations, your customers are moving from perpetual to subscription. How do you actually capture that ACV and ARR accurately? And so that's been super interesting, and things we've had to do with CPQ is so what we ended up doing was we used Squid to build an interface out that allowed our sales reps to build out a negative amendment on an opportunity and quote, bring in those negative line items with negative values in a point and click atmosphere, so they could just find the Salesforce subscriptions, hold them over, and then once they hit submit, it would pull into the CPQ cart. Now we have the negative items there, and then they can build out their new subscription based quotes, which then at the end we have all the negatives and all the positives, giving us the ability to say this is the total new ACV value for this with the downsell already built in, and then push that into our write the subscriptions through CPQ, and then push that into our ERP, all in one fell swoop, where we were having to build multiple opportunities, one for negative items, one for positive items, and it was impossible to actually tie those things together. We were able to tie those together in one fell swoop, so I think that's kind of one of the coolest things that we've had to figure out that's unique to our business, and use a cross-section of technology to accomplish it.
That's very interesting, because I think these use cases, no product feature will help you, and I think every unique business is unique. So glad you were able to do that. In terms of 2021, you talked a little bit about a larger transformation. So how does your initiatives look, and any lessons learned from the past that you would want to sort of ensure that, hey, you incorporate those in your upcoming projects?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I'm focused on 2021, and it was a focus of 2020, but it's a evolution over the years, is, we're trying to get better at tighter projects, bringing in more standard methodologies. One of my goals is for when we work with stakeholders, that they expect to know what a project looks like when they're going to engage with their business systems partners, and we're not figuring it out, as we go. So we've recently hired a manager of project delivery who has a lot of senior experience in working in software companies to really tighten up what we had done, tighten up what was going on. We had gone a long ways, but when it was just kind of managers and business systems analysts without any sort of standardization, we found our ceiling of what we could do from a standardization. And so we're bringing in someone who can absolutely tighten that up. So that's a big goal of 2021 as far as the department goes.
That's great. We're almost at the end of our podcast. Any feedback for some of our listeners who are starting their career? Maybe they're a business analyst, maybe they are in sales ops, or maybe they're in sales and they want to kind of become a leader like you in managing a business system. So any feedback or suggestions that you want to share? What should they be focusing on as they think of their career?
Yeah, I mean, so the first one that I've learned is never let a good opportunity go to waste. Even if you're not quite sure you can do it, you've got to be always keeping your eyes open and looking for those opportunities. And when they come, jump on them, attack, be aggressive. I think on a more foundational basis, if you're a technical person, you're a business person. Like, those lines cannot be separate anymore.
Right.
To survive in the modern workplace. Learn the business. If you're a developer, whoever it is, if you have to learn the business, you have to build those relationships, speak the language. Those are the things that are going to take you to the next level. If you just can't be just in the code, or you just can't be an analyst. Like, you've got to be able to bring those two things together, because everybody, like, the era of specialization is ending to a certain degree, and people want someone who can do multiple things and understand multiple things to accelerate the return on their investment in those employees. So I'm a big fan of just learning many functions and being very broad in skill sets.
That's a great feedback, right? Be a journalist and focus on what the trend is, but also be open to other things and be curious. So that's a great insight, David. You've been really open and you've shared a lot of things. So really appreciate the time, David. Any final thoughts? Anyone thinking of a CPQ project? Anything you want to sort of give them some perspective, like what might have helped you in terms of research or insights?
Yeah, I mean, CPQ projects, if you're doing implementation, it's big. So definitely, do your planning, reach out to people who might have done it before, because depending on your business, they're so unique. No CPQ project is the same. And so, you're going to have to be thinking on your feet. You're going to have to be understanding new situations, work with your product team. Make sure that you have a strong product strategy that's put into place, and make sure they're talking to your sales team. And make sure you understand all the pieces and all the goals of those two teams, because you're really marrying sales and products when you put a CPQ project out there. And so if you don't understand what those two departments are trying to accomplish, it's going to fail. So you got to be thinking, what does product need? What does sales need? Sometimes you got to negotiate between the two of them to get a successful project out, but really think as a sales or product leader.
That has been such a good insight. I used to always think CPQ is about sales ops. I think this perspective of product and trying to essentially enable new product introductions and enabling people in the product team to be more innovative. I think that's a good insight that people forget. Okay, David, I would look forward in getting more feedback on your recording, and thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks. It was great having this conversation. You have a great day.
So with that, I would like to wrap up this podcast. Thank you all for tuning into Reimagine Enterprise Sales Systems. To listen to more exciting podcasts, please visit my website, protikm.com or protikm.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and other channels that you follow so that you'll never miss your show.